The koala, an Australian icon. They're also going extinct. Over the last 2 decades, koala habitat and population has been on a steady decline, and over the last 3 years have experienced more devastation than the other 17 combined. With the disease chlamydia tearing through the koala population, they were already in danger of becoming extinct. And now, after the 2019-2020 bushfires, flooding, and the continuous logging of protected habitat, this outcome seems ever more likely. Earlier this year, the government finally classed koalas as an endangered species. So now, I think it's time to do some investigating and talk to some people who really know what's going on.
So koalas were previously listed as vulnerable, which meant that we'd lost about 30% of the population in around 10 years. So by being now upgraded to endangered means that we've actually lost about 50% or 50 to 70% of the population in 3 generations or 10 years, which is largely being contributed to the bushfire season of 2019 and 2020.
To help us understand the effects of the bushfires, we went to ANU to talk to Marsh, a researcher studying different species of eucalypt trees and the few marsupials that have them in their diet.
Not a lot is really known about what koalas can eat after fire, because there's some eucalypt species that seem to be more nutritious for koalas after fire, but then there's other eucalypt species that actually do the opposite. So they get less nutritious and more toxic.
With the bushfires affecting how many eucalyptus trees there are and how much food koalas have, I was curious as to what else is causing the koala population to decline.
Besides the bushfire season, koala populations are also being impacted by cats and dogs on the street. They do need to come down to the road to find food or change trees, particularly as their habitats decrease. So as that behaviour becomes more common, they're more likely to run into dogs, and that's often what results in more koala loss. Now we have had some considerable environmental loss with the bushfires and with land clearing. We're creating all these little bottlenecks. Their home range is becoming smaller and smaller, which is why they're having to come down to the ground and travel great distances to find more food.
We had the opportunity to talk to someone from the government out at Tidbinbilla Nature Reserve and discuss some of the concerns the government had about the low koala population. Senior ecologist for threatened fauna, Dr. Renay Brevate, had this to say.
The whole of the Victorian population is founded by only a handful of koalas, which makes them very genetically inbred, and then you start to get deformities and other problems with breeding. And it's common in a lot of threatened species, particularly ones that are endangered or critically endangered. The genetic pool gets so low, it's down to only a few animals, that the inbreeding is so bad that they can't repopulate. You've got to bring in genetics. When a species has maximum diversity, it enables it to adapt to change, especially entering climate change. By keeping the diversity of koalas across the national scale, it's going to help the species survive into the future.
In 2022, the federal government pledged $50 million to koala habitat restoration and rehabilitation. It's not only the government that has a plan to save the koalas, though. Dr. Danielle Johinke from the National Zoo and Aquarium is overseeing one of these other plans.
So the koala breeding program was started here at the National Zoo and Aquarium in 2019. It was actually the first of its kind here at this zoo, and the Maggie was the first product of that. So we were really excited when she was born in November of 2019. So obviously being part of the regional breeding program is our major contribution to the koala conservation, and it's something that we're really proud of because we hadn't previously run such a program here at the zoo.
Yeah, if we can, I guess, tap into some of the money that the government is putting towards revegetation, it's potentially perfect timing. If people are going out and doing all this replanting anyway, if we can work with some of those groups and have access to sites and understand where they're getting their seeds from and even give them some directions about where to get seeds from, then it is potentially perfect timing.
So we need to really start being proactive in how we manage our natural environment in Australia, rather than sort of bulldozing and fragmenting our natural landscape. We need to sort of plan better and keep tracts of land. So rather than going in and removing it and then having to restore it, we need to have a picture for the future, because for animals such as the koala to survive, they need large tracts of land, they need the right food trees, they need adequate habitat, they need protection from things such as people's dogs off leads and in cars and fire, and they need a place to live.
So what have we learned? We've talked to Karen Marsh, talked to Dr. Johinke, and we've talked to Dr. Brevate. And koalas have gone through a lot over the last 20 years, and they will go through a bit more. But both government and private industry are making efforts to stop the extinction. A lot of money has been pledged, and a lot of research is going into figuring out the best ways to bring the koala population out of its endangered status. So hopefully, it's not too little, too late.